the story of how the Oppenheimer family gained control of the world. Diamonds begins in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when diamonds were suddenly discovered in South Africa. These stones were rare, beautiful, and powerful symbols of wealth. But before the diamond rush, they were not yet a global obsession. Everything changed when large diamond mines such as Kimberley erupted into chaotic boomtowns, attracting thousands of prospectors from around the world. This sudden flood of diamonds risked collapsing the market, because if too many diamonds entered circulation, prices would fall sharply. That is when Cecil Rhodes, a British businessman, began consolidating mines into a single company known as De Beers Consolidated Mines in 1888. His goal was to limit supply and artificially control diamond prices. When Rhodes died, control passed to his longtime associate, Ernest Oppenheimer, a young German-born entrepreneur with ambitions far greater than anyone imagined. Ernest had already built powerful networks through his earlier company, Anglo-American, and he quickly set his sights on one mission: to take full control of the global diamond trade. Ernest Oppenheimer understood something few others did. Diamonds were not valuable because they were rare, but because people believed they were rare. This belief had to be protected at all costs. In 1926, he took a seat on the De Beers board, and by 1929, using investments from his mining giant Anglo-American, he gained majority control of De Beers itself. With this, the Oppenheimer dynasty officially took command of the world's diamonds. But controlling mines was not enough. Ernest wanted control over distribution, marketing, pricing, and even public perception. To do this, he built the Central Selling Organization, CSO, a system that forced nearly every major diamond producer in Africa to sell their diamonds exclusively through De Beers. This allowed the Oppenheimers to decide how many diamonds would be released each year, what prices would be set, and which countries or companies would receive supply. No other commodity market in the world was as tightly controlled as diamonds under the Oppenheimer rule. Through this system, the family could artificially restrict supply during economic downturns, increase supply during booms, and maintain stable high prices even when global conditions were turbulent. When Ernest Oppenheimer died in 1957, leadership of the Diamond Empire passed to his son, Harry Oppenheimer. Under Harry, the De Beers Empire entered its golden age. The family's influence now stretched across continents, from Africa to Europe to the United States. Harry continued the supply control system, but added a new weapon: global marketing. In the mid-20th century, diamonds were not yet considered mandatory for engagements, and demand was limited. De Beers teamed up with the New York advertising agency N.W. Ayer to change culture forever. Together, they crafted one of the most successful marketing campaigns in human history. "A diamond is forever." This slogan, introduced in 1947, transformed diamonds into emotional symbols of love, loyalty, and commitment. Wedding traditions across America shifted, and the idea of proposing without a diamond became socially unacceptable. This campaign single-handedly created modern diamond culture. As a result, global sales skyrocketed, and the Oppenheimer dynasty's control became not just economic, but cultural. They didn't just control diamonds, they controlled the meaning of diamonds. Throughout the second half of the 20th century, De Beers operated like a quiet global authority. Through the CSO, the Oppenheimers influenced diamond prices in London, New York, Antwerp, Tel Aviv, Mumbai, and Hong Kong. They managed relationships with governments in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Angola, and the Soviet Union. Even during the Cold War, De Beers struck a secret agreement with the USSR to purchase its diamonds, preventing the Soviet Union from flooding the global market. This was one of the most influential deals in diamond history, as the Soviet mines were producing huge quantities of high-quality stones that could have destabilized prices worldwide. But De Beers, under Oppenheimer leadership, bought and controlled these diamonds just like any other supply. Meanwhile, The family built deep ties with African leaders, especially in Botswana, where the discovery of the Arapa and Jwaneng mines, two of the richest diamond deposits in the world, made Botswana one of Africa's fastest-growing economies. These partnerships helped maintain stability in the diamond market for decades. The Oppenheimers were not just businessmen. They were key intermediaries in global diplomacy, trade, and resource politics. The Diamond Empire was not without controversy. Because De Beers controlled around 80 to 90% of global rough diamond supply for most of the 20th century, accusations of monopoly behavior were constant. Critics argued that the Oppenheimers manipulated supply, controlled prices, and created artificial scarcity. Some governments accused De Beers of anti-competitive practices, especially the United States, which never allowed De Beers to operate fully within its borders due to antitrust laws. This forced De Beers and the Oppenheimer family to avoid traveling to the U.S. for decades to prevent legal action. At the same time, the rise of informal mining and conflict diamonds in war-torn regions of Africa during the 1990s posed major threats to De Beers' reputation. These conflict diamonds, mined in areas controlled by rebel groups and sold to finance civil wars, damaged the image of the entire industry. Although De Beers was not the cause of the conflicts, the Oppenheimer family had to respond, and eventually supported the creation of the Kimberley process in 2003, a global certification system designed to prevent conflict diamonds from entering the market. As the 21st century approached, the diamond industry changed dramatically. New competitors such as Alrosa in Russia and government-owned mines in Africa began reducing De Beers' dominance. Synthetic diamonds also emerged, offering consumers cheaper alternatives. At the same time, rising political pressures made it harder for any single family to control such a large portion of the world's diamond supply. Recognizing this shift, the Oppenheimer family made one of its most surprising decisions. In 2012, they sold their remaining 40% stake in De Beers to Anglo American for $5.1 billion. This ended nearly 85 years of Oppenheimer control over the diamond market. It was the end of an era, the dynasty that once ruled. 90% of worldwide diamond supply no longer had ownership of the company it spent generations building. Yet by the time they exited, the Oppenheimers had already diversified into other industries, ensuring their wealth and influence extended far beyond diamonds. Even after stepping away from De Beers, the Oppenheimer legacy continues to define the global diamond industry. Many of the pricing systems, distribution networks, marketing strategies, and cultural perceptions created under Oppenheimer leadership still dominate the market today. The idea that diamonds are rare, eternal, and essential for marriage proposals, concepts invented through De Beers marketing, remain deeply embedded in cultures worldwide. The supply chain model that De Beers perfected, where producers sell rough stones through tightly controlled channels, is still widely used. The Oppenheimer influence can also be seen in Botswana, a country whose economic rise was strongly shaped by its partnership with De Beers during the Oppenheimer era. To this day, some of the world's richest mines operate on systems created decades earlier by the family. And while De Beers no longer has monopoly control, it remains one of the most powerful players in the global diamond industry, due in large part to the structures the Oppenheimers built. To understand why the Oppenheimer family succeeded, we must look at their strategy. They operated with three key principles: control supply, create demand, and shape perception. By controlling supply through the CSO, they ensured diamonds never flooded the market. By creating demand through advertising, they transformed diamonds into emotional necessities. And by shaping global perception, they built a mythology around diamonds that still influences consumer behavior today. This combination of strategy, discipline, and psychology allowed them to build one of the most powerful commodity empires in history. The Oppenheimers understood human emotion as much as they understood economics. They didn't just sell stones. They sold love, status, and aspiration. That's what made their empire so strong. Today, the Oppenheimer family remains one of the wealthiest and most influential families in South Africa. Through their company, the Oppenheimer and Son, and their investment firm, they continue to be major players in African business, finance, ranching, and philanthropy. Nicky Oppenheimer, Ernest's grandson, is consistently ranked among Africa's richest individuals. The family invests heavily in conservation projects, educational programs, and African entrepreneurship. Although they no longer control De Beers, the structure they built continues to shape the global diamond landscape. Their legacy is not limited to wealth. It extends into global economic history, marketing psychology, and the geopolitics of natural resources. The Oppenheimer story shows how a single family can transform a simple mineral into a global symbol, and in doing so, quietly influence economies, governments, and generations. The rise of the Oppenheimer family is a powerful lesson in how empires are built, not always through force, but through strategy, patience, and control of perception. They took a market that was chaotic and unstable and turned it into one of the most tightly managed industries on Earth. For nearly a century, they controlled the supply of diamonds, shaped global culture, and built a dynasty whose influence extended far beyond gemstones. Their story reveals how business families can quietly shape the modern world. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the financial history of the Oppenheimer Diamond Empire, make sure to like this video, subscribe to HistoriNomica, and stay tuned for more dramatic stories that uncover hidden power, forgotten empires, and the financial forces shaping our world today.